Hi everyone. So the talk today is about agentic AI coding exists with Gemini CLI. Not sure if anyone have tried Gemini CLI. Oh, okay. So if you would like to follow along, the slide is available here. So usually in the slides, there are a lot of resources linked to things that you might want to read, the GitHub links or whatever. Okay. So a brief introduction myself. My name is Kuan Hoong. I'm from Malaysia. You can call me KH. Currently, I'm working as a data engineering lead in Roche. I'm an AI GDE, Google Developer Expert. I'm also an AWS community builder and machine learning. I'm very passionate about communities. I founded and still managing two communities in Malaysia, the AI ML Malaysia and the Malaysia User Group. So love to connect to everyone in LinkedIn. If you are in LinkedIn, please do connect with me. Okay, so this is the agenda for today. So I'm going to talk to you, introduce to you about Gemini CLI. CLI stands for Command Line Interface. So what are the features and how do you start coding with Gemini CLI? How does the project structure look like? The settings, the tools available, and what are the new things available in Gemini CLI, which is called Gemini Extension. Of course, you cannot run away with MCP. We talk about all this agentic coding. Then I will teach you how to get started with Gemini CLI, some of the tips and best practices to do agentic coding. I know somebody have done what so-called wipe coding, but they don't seem to get good result. So maybe there are some best practices for how to get around with this wipe coding. Of course, the best thing is to do a demo. So what's Gemini CLI? So Gemini CLI is an open source AI agentic AI agent. We actually allow you to have the power of Gemini into your terminal. So we know that we can access Gemini through gemini.google.com. Okay, we can actually do a lot of things with Gemini through Gemini, and maybe we can go to the web page like aistudio.google.com. You can have the power of Gemini. But how do you bring the power of Gemini to your terminal? And then how do you use the power of Gemini to help you to do coding? So in Gemini CLI, you can actually use the power of Gemini to help you do coding and also other related tasks. Okay, we come together with the Gemini CLI. So it's the good thing about Gemini CLI is open source. Okay, so you can have a GitHub. You can actually go to the GitHub and you can actually see the whole. Sorry, here. So it's available in GitHub and the whole source code you can see it available, and then you can just install it from there. So what are the features of Gemini CLI? The first thing is it has a very large context window. So as we know that when we deal with all these large language model, one of the things that important is the amount of token that we use. So in Gemini CLI, it has this 1 million tokens context window. We allow you to have a once reasoning. The second thing is it's free. That means if you have used other agentic coding tools out there, for example, Claude Code or GitHub Copilot, okay, they are not free. For Google, this Gemini CLI is free. You get free access just by signing in to your Google account, where you get up to 60 model requests per minute and about 1,000 requests per day. Okay, it supports natural language. It also support multi-modal output. Another thing is in Gemini CLI, there's a lot of other tools available out there. Okay, so one of the tools available built-in into Gemini CLI is the ability to actually do Google search. So there is a built-in tools you can actually search inside the terminal. Okay, of course you also can incorporate this MCP model context protocol, the tools available inside the this Gemini CLI terminal. So Gemini CLI is actually a MCP client, and you can actually connect directly to the MCP server. So if you compare other tools out there, like Gemini CLI, Claude Code, Copilot, open source, CLI is open source. You can run locally. the free access about 1,000 requests per day, large context window, 1 million token context window. You can do web search, and you can do file access. Of course, with all these Gemini CLI, we come to this new term where we can actually use this AI agent to help us to do coding. So this is the term we say vibe coding. So basically, vibe coding is where you actually describe what you want, okay, in a normal natural language prompt. The AI will help you to generate the code. Okay. Then from there, you can use the AI as your companion coding partner to do the testing and to refine your code. And then at the same time, you can iterate your code, and then towards the end, you can do the deployment. So Gemini CLI is not the only AI agent-based coding code assistant out there. You have like cloud-based Codex. You have the web-based. You probably heard of Lovable, Bolt, or Firebase Studio. There's also a lot of extensions available. For example, if you use VS Code, you also can run Gemini as an extension. Now we have Codex, Client, Rules, all these extensions. And then you have a native app, okay, like Cursor, Windsurf, a recent one from Amazon, like Kiro. And then Terminal, you have Cloud Code, Gemini CLI, Codex CLI, and more, all these AI agents also coming to CLI. So you have Kimi CLI, you have all the Chinese model also available in the CLI model. So in a nutshell, how does the agentic AI coding will look like? Okay, so basically as a user, you have a prompt. For example, you ask, I got this error in my code. Can you find and fix the error for me or find the issue for me? So you send this prompt to the agentic coding assistant. So in terms of Gemini CLI, you have the model that actually assists you in your programming, in the coding. So in Gemini CLI, you have two models that you can access. The top model, which is the Gemini 2.5 Pro. Another one, you also can have access to Gemini 2.5 Flash. At the same time, your model will access to have tools like memory. That means you have its ability to actually have a context of the previous conversation, and then it has the ability to access many tools. So one of the tools that you can access is MCP, but Gemini CLI also have a lot of other built-in tools that you do not need to install. It come together when you install Gemini CLI. So with the models, you will go through this process. You gather context about your code. Okay, then you come up with a plan, what it needs to be done. Then you go take action. Okay, so at the same time, this process will work in an iterative manner, and this whole coding assistant will have the ability to access all your code base. Different, for example, you have a big project, you could have different files. So your Gemini CLI will have the ability to access all your files. Okay, so like I mentioned just now, Gemini CLI is not just in the terminal, it also is available as extension. So there is an extension called Gemini Code Assist, which is also available inside as an extension. So if you go to VS Code, okay, you can see that I have this Gemini CLI as an extension here. So you can see this extension available inside the VS Code. Of course, as an extension, there's a limitation that what you can do with extension. You see, you can also have this like agent mode or other things. Okay. So you can see the CLI itself can be accessed as an extension, but of course with terminal you can actually more things. You can set more configuration. You can have you can actually do more if you run it in the terminal. So how do you get started with Gemini CLI? Basically, it's very simple. First, if you want it to run locally in a machine, make sure you have Node.js version 18 and higher as installed. And then you just have to run this npm install Google Gemini CLI. And then to run, just type Gemini. Later, I'll do a demo. I will show you what does it look like. So as I mentioned, Gemini CLI is free. Okay. If you sign in using your Google, not sharing. Sorry. sharing on. So as I mentioned, Gemini CLI is available for free if you sign in using your Google account. So to authenticate yourself for Gemini CLI, there's 3 options for you. One is if you sign in using your Google. So if you have a Gmail account, you just can sign in. Another way is you can actually use the Gemini API key. You can access the Gemini API key through the aistudio.google.com. So you go to aistudio.google.com, and then you go to dashboard. You can see you can actually create API key. So you can create API key, or you can see I've created 2 API key, and then you can get the API key, and then you can just set as an environment in the environment file. The next option that you have, if you have a GCP, Google Cloud Platform project, you can actually sign in using your Vertex API, Vertex AI. So basically, these are the 3 ways that you can actually authenticate to get sign into your Gemini CLI. So once you authenticate, like I mentioned, free tier, you get up to 60 requests per minute and 1,000 model requests per day. And you can just play around with it once you sign in. Of course, with Google login, there's a limitation. Once you hit a limit, they will change from the Gemini 2.5 Pro and downgrade you to Gemini 2.5 Flash. But if you sign in using your API key or Vertex AI, you can have a much longer usage of this model. So I mentioned, once you get the API key, you can actually just store the API key in this .env file. So what are the settings available? So when you start up the Gemini, you have an option to, by default, you can actually get access to Gemini 2.5 Pro. But let's say you do not want to burn out all your token, you want to use a lower model, you can start by selecting the Gemini 2.5 Flash. So when you invoke the command Gemini, you can select a model. If you do not put anything, by default, you go to Gemini 2.5 Pro. Okay, so this is very important. When you use Gemini CLI, you have the option to set some settings. So all the settings for Gemini CLI is inside this file, settings.json file. So in this settings.json file, if you look at the project structure, you can have all your coding file. But if you want to have a specific settings that you want to set at the beginning of the project, you can set inside the .gemini folder inside the settings.json file. And then you have, if you have used Claude Code before, and in fact, any agentic coding out there, they have this markdown file. Okay, if you've seen that in Claude Code, they have this Claude.md file. In Gemini, they have this Gemini.md file. So this Gemini.md file basically contain all the instructions, all the context, or so-called memory that you want the Gemini model to remember, to be aware during your interaction with your project. So you can see this this MD file, you can create it manually, or later I will show you. You can also ask a Gemini to create when you initialize your project. So imagine, let's say you actually clone a project from GitHub. So your Gemini CLI have no context about your project. So what you need to do, you can ask Gemini CLI to go through the whole project and have a context about what is this project all about. So you can do what we call /init, and then what Gemini CLI will do, he will actually get a overview context about your project and write the whole things into this Gemini.md file. Okay. So the Gemini.md file is inside the setting.json. This will override the user and system setting. If you can see inside here, I have I can set the setting for the teams for my Gemini CLI, whether I have a checkpoint or not, okay, and whether I can have a user static enabled or not. So all these settings can be set manually by yourself inside the settings.json file. Okay, so a more briefing about this Gemini.md file. So this Gemini.md file basically provides instruction for the model and tailor to your project. So you can have many Gemini.md file. Okay, so you have the Gemini.md file in the in the global context, where if we store inside the Gemini folder, okay, this will apply to all the projects. But let's say your project have many sub projects. You can have a Gemini MD file there. Okay, so this can actually provide a context about the subfolder. So the Gemini .md file, later I will show you more. Basically, it consists of core instructions, guide your code style guidelines, your testing instruction, your repo, all the basic things that you want your Gemini to remember, the context, you can store inside the Gemini.md file. So basically, you look at an example like this. You can have a general instruction, then you have a coding style, okay? Or you can have how you want to handle certain requests. So all these things, the instruction, if you want the Gemini, when you start a project, okay, you continue a project, you want the Gemini to remember, you can store it inside this Gemini.md file. Okay, so what are the tools available inside Gemini CLI? So as I mentioned, Gemini CLI comes with a lot of built-in tools. Okay, so you have like search file tools, read file tools, write file tools. Of course, this is very important because the AI agent would able to search the file and able to write the code for you. So we have all these tools available. You also can run shell command tools. Like I mentioned just now, you have a Google Web Search tool. That means if you run, let's say you're doing a coding, and then you want to find something out, you do not need to go to the browser to do a Google search. You can search inside your terminal. Okay. Then let's say you have something that you want the Gemini to remember, you can just use this safe memory, and you actually try to remember what you prefer or your context, and write it back into your Gemini.md file. So basically, the tools are, if you're a user, you say, okay, I have this code, I want it to write into the main.go file. Okay, so the coding assistant remember, you will find the file that you want to write and what is supposed to be written inside the file. Okay, and then the large language model will write the file and read the file accordingly, then write the content of the file, and then get back the file and then show to the user. So you can see in the Gemini CLI, there are many tools. You can just backslash there. You can see many tools available out there. You have MCP tools, you have stats tools, memories, all the other tools available. Okay, this is the new one, just launched like 3 weeks ago. So we know that you can actually add MCP inside your Gemini CLI. So, but as mentioned by the previous speaker, some of the tools are not vetted. Some of the tools is not safe. So what Gemini CLI has done is they actually come together and call something what we call extension. So extension is not just about MCP server. It can be a context file. It can be a tool. It can be a specific command. Or for example, a specific prompt. So all these can be written as a what we call extension, and then you can run or install this extension in Gemini CLI. So let me show you some here. For example, you have the code here in Gemini CLI. You say, okay, I want to see what the extension available. So I have this Postman extension. So using this extension now, I can use the Postman to test my file and then see how does it look like. Okay. So this is how the extension will look like if you use it in like a tools inside your Gemini CLI. So as mentioned, Gemini CLI extension is not just MCP server. It consists of specific custom commands, okay, or what we call specific prompt, okay, or it could be specific context file. Okay, so let's say you want to bring some context to your Gemini CLI. You can install extension. So you can have extension that consists of servers, MCP servers, custom commands, and context files. So what Gemini CLI have done, you actually have curated many extensions that you can just copy and install inside your Gemini CLI. For example, there's Context 7, GitHub, this extension, Chrome Dev 2 MCP. So imagine you are building a web page, and then you want to test inside your Chrome. You can just use this Chrome tabs through MCP to test out your web page. So there are many extensions available like Canva, Figma, GitLab, other extensions available. So now you can actually test out. For example, you want to build something in Figma, you can code it inside your Gemini CLI. Okay, the last one that of course the tools is MCP server. Okay, you can install MCP server manually if you do not go through the Gemini CLI extension. So, like I mentioned, every Gemini CLI is already an MCP client. All you need to do is just connect to the MCP server. So you can configure the MCP server just like this inside the setting.json file and just connect to the server that you have. So you can have connect to multiple server that inside this MCP server command here. So there are many MCP server available from Google itself, like Firebase, Google Gen AI, Google Workspace, and then there are instructions to how to connect or publish your own MCP server. Okay, so before I do a demo, let's touch on the best practices. So we know that everybody said wipe coding is, I do not need to know any programming. I can just be a wipe coder. Okay, so it's so simple. So why do I need to study programming? I can just do wipe coding. But the problem is when wipe coding doesn't work, sometimes to debug a code, you can really want to flip the table. Okay, so debugging wipe coding sometimes because you do not know what you're doing, and then the AI assistant tell you, I see your problem there. I solve it for you already. Then you say it's not solved. Then you say it's not solved. Can you solve it for me? Oh, it's my problem. Okay, it's my mistake. Okay, I see the problem now. I fix for you already. You go there, it's not fixed again. You really want to flip the table. Okay. And what is the problem actually? The problem is because you totally relying on the wipe coding and you do not know what you're doing. I think that is a problem. So the best practices is you need to make sure you understand what you're doing, and also you need to make sure you put yourself as the person using the AI coder as your companion. Okay. So remember, first thing is your project must have a good project structure. Okay. So follow this structure that I showed you just now. Second thing is there is this planning loop. Okay. Before you ask the AI coding to start the coding, you go through these few steps. First, you explore what can be done. Okay. Do not straight away say, build me a Airbnb website. Okay. It will never work. Okay. Trust me. Okay. If it's so simple, everybody can be an entrepreneur now. Okay. So first thing is you need to explore. Okay. Second thing is ask the AI assistant to do a plan for you. Put yourself to review the plan first. Okay. So based on the exploration, then come up with a plan. So write the plan into an MD file. You go through it, then you confirm, review the plan, approve it, then ask the AI agent to start coding for you step by step. Do not go everything from start to the end. Okay. When you do the planning, ask it to break it down to step 1, step 2, step 3, then go through step by step first. Okay. Then every single step you review and go through, make sure it's correct. Of course, as a best practices, always push your code to the GitHub so you can actually review it back later. Okay, so let's do a demo. Okay, how much time do I have? So much time. Okay, so to start, your Gemini, basically you just go to your folder and just type Gemini. Okay, before that you just install npm -g, then google/gemini.cli. So you just install like this. You will install. Of course, you need to install Node.js first into your machine. Once you install, you can just start by putting Gemini. Okay, so you can see here, once you go in there, this is the Gemini interface that you look like. Okay, so if you backslash, you can see these are all the commands that I have. Okay, so you have like about, so for my case here, this is my version of Gemini CLI is 0.10.0. Okay, Then if you backslash again, you can see authentication, OTH. So this is the three way that you authenticate yourself for this Gemini CLI. You can log in with Google, you can Gemini API key or Vertex AI. So for myself, I put in my API key and in the .env file. Okay, and then you can see what other things that you have. Chat. Okay, chat is very important. So when you sometimes when you keep on chatting with your Gemini with your AI agent, okay, you cannot work 24 hours. Right? You might want to go to sleep, okay, or you want to turn off your machine. So what happens if you turn off a machine, then if you come back tomorrow, what will happen? Your chat will be gone. Then you need to start back from fresh again. So what you can do, you can actually save your chat. So for example, let's say when I see here, I can in my chat, I can save my chat, I can resume, I can delete, or I can share. Okay. So for my case here, if I list, I don't have any saved chat. But sometimes what I can do is I can just, for example, I can just chat here, I can just save it. So when you save, you can put a name. Okay. So you save it, for example, sorry. So first. So now you save this chat, but since I have nothing here, so I can do for example, what is the flight time from Brisbane to Kuala Lumpur? Okay. So as I mentioned just now, Gemini CLI has a built-in Google search tool. Okay. So now instead of you go to google.com browser, you can actually search things that you want inside your terminal. It has a built-in tool. For example, here it shared that Brisbane to KL is about 8 hours. Okay. So let's say now I want to remember this, so I can say chat, save, flight. Okay. So now this chat about flight is saved into this name called flight. So imagine now I want to change topic. I want to talk about MCP. Tell me more about model context protocol. Okay, so now I'm asking Gemini CLI to tell me more about model context protocol. Model context protocol is totally different context with the flight itself. So imagine if you do not have a save, what will happen? Your Gemini CLI will have confusion. Suddenly you talk about flight, suddenly you talk about durian, suddenly you talk about a model context protocol. So with this save, I can actually save this into another branch of chat. Then when I resume back, I can come back, resume another topics. So this is also very good when you have multiple folder inside your project. Sometimes when you do programming, you have multiple folder. For this folder, I will save all the chat for this inside this chat. Okay, so you can see now, okay, I can save this now as MCP. So now if I go back to my flight, tab, resume. Okay, so I can say I can. Okay, so now you can see the things about MCP is not shown in my flight here. Okay, so this is the good thing about you can save in multiple branch for your chat. Okay, other than that, you can see okay, one thing about all this agentic coding is okay, at the beginning it worked very well, but as my project grew larger and larger, what will happen? Okay, it will burn more and more token when I want to interact with my this Gemini. Okay, so one thing that you can do is to compress your chat. Okay, so why? Because when the more and more that you chat, the more and token will be used. Okay, so in white coding, there's something called loss in the middle. The AI agent will only remember things at the beginning and only remember things very well at the last. Things at the middle, it will be forgotten. So this is where people will say, "Oh, as my project grew larger and larger, my AI agent sucks. It doesn't work very well." That's because the token has burned so much that you talk so much with the agent. The context has been actually diluted. So you could actually compress your chat so you can save the token. Then you can have better interaction with your Gemini, with your AI agent. Okay. Other than that, you can see there's an extension that I showed you just now. Okay. Okay. Before that, I have only 10 minutes to go. I just want to show you there's three ways to actually do this white coding. One way is just build me a simple cafe website. Okay. So you could actually start something like this. Okay. So you just start and then go from there. Okay. So whenever you do, you ask you every single time things that you need to do, you need to ask permission from me. Okay. You can actually allow it once or allow it always. So for example, for this case, I say, okay, allow it always. Then he will start doing the coding and start writing the file for you. That's one way. Okay. Second way is, okay, I can do something like this. Okay, so now I say, okay, allow it always. You create the file, create the website. Okay, then after that you can see the website, then you can actually run the website. Okay, that's one way. Second way is you can do something like this. Okay, second way is you can do something like this. Okay, you start with a small prompt. Okay, I want to create a Python Flash app, simple dashboard. Then I just want to document all my expenses. Okay, then once you created this, okay, now you build on from there. Okay, now connect to a SQL database. Okay, submit, okay, where the user can submit expenses. Then you can see now all the expenses now is stored in the database. Then from there, you build on top of that. You say, okay, now I want some validation. Make sure the amount must be correct. So you can build on top of that. Okay, after that, you can say, okay, now I want to have a pie chart. So you build on something on that. Okay, so you slowly build more and more features on top of that. Okay, this is another way that you can actually do your white coding. That means you have in mind what features, slowly you build more and more features on that. That's one another way to do white coding. The last way to do a white coding is something like this. Okay, you start something like this. I want to build a command line markdown viewer. You briefly describe what the features that you want. Then you say, okay, write me a user guide first. Okay, and save the user guide as an MD file. Okay, then say, wait for my review, don't do any code. So he will create a user guide file. Okay, so then from there, you go through the user guide, you find, okay, that's what you want. Then you ask him to do a technical design. Okay, so ask the agent tell you what language should I use. Okay, so you look something like this. Let me show you. You look something like this. Okay. Okay. Now, since I have the user guide, can you recommend what language should I use? Okay. You let the AI agent to come back to you with some suggestion. Can Python, Go, or Rust? Then say, okay, I recommend Python. Then you say, okay, do Python now. Now translate all these things to a technical file, technical design, and write into an MD file. Okay. Then you review it. So in the MD file, you have all the steps. Step 1, step 2, step 3, what you need to do. Okay. Then every time when you finish a step, cross all the step out. Okay. Then after that, okay, you go through the last step. You say now, once you have done, now write the requirement and then go through all the one by one step for me. So this is the three ways that you can do. First, you can just give a very brief instruction. Second way is you build command by command, feature by feature. The third way is, which I recommend you to do, is go through with the AI agent, start by technical design, then go to a plan, and then MD file, go through MD file, and then step by step ask the agent to actually write all the features for you one by one. Okay. And lastly, just want to show you this. You can actually run this whole thing here inside your VS Code. So inside my VS Code, I have the same thing here that I showed just now. I can actually run terminal instead of running extension. I can run my Gemini as inside my VS Code. Same. You can save, you have the same terminal. and then you can see the code inside your VS Code. So sometimes people do not like the feel of terminal, and you want to see the code. Then you can have both. You can run the Gemini inside your VS Code terminal, and then you can see the code accordingly like that. Okay. Since I don't have much time. So conclusion is, Gemini CLI basically it actually empower you with agentic coding. You can use your AI agent as your active collaborator. Okay, with Gemini CLI you have speed, flexibility, intelligence. It enhance your developer productivity because you have some kind of context awareness, iterative interaction. It actually promote you with a new development paradigm where you can actually combine your human creativity with your AI agency. And then, so Gemini CLI is not supposed to just be a tool. It's supposed to be your AI coding partner, and you can actually work anywhere, anytime. So hopefully, with the short period of time, I have introduced you with Gemini CLI, what Gemini CLI can be done, can do for you, and how do you work best with your Gemini CLI. If the explanation today is not sufficient, I actually done a talk online before. You can actually watch the recording on the YouTube if you find it's not enough. So thank you very much.